Hey everyone, I guess we're on air. We'll try it anyhow. Anyone that tunes in, can you please give me a comment on how the feed is? And I believe it should be strong enough. If not, I will cut it short. Thank you. So, see, we have 5 viewers here. If someone can just comment, good. Ah, great. Okay, we got a lot coming on here. Hey, good to see you, Simone Boyd. She says, good to see you. Perfect. Okay, thanks, everyone. You know, I want to get right into it. Lately, I've been bringing up the sovereign theme, and, I just put a post out previous on my timeline um, to this live about, the ridiculous world debt, the debt of all the nations. And when we just keep it very simple, every child born upon the planet today has a debt on their head, which is actually ridiculous. What did any little innocent child do to be born into a world with I believe it's around $30,000 in Canada uh, for each individual, and 80,000, I believe, in the U.S. I mean, how nonsensical and ridiculous and preposterous and ludicrous is that for a child to be born with a huge debt? Now, come on, world, and you know, no wonder governments and everything is coming down the way. Who in their own mind would support that? And, at the same time, where a government and governments of the world can create a huge debt, they also could have created a huge surplus. Money does not matter. They can print money to eternity. So why keep humanity in places of poverty and hardship? And it's done intentionally. And it is so ridiculous, but it's all coming down very quickly. And each time I think about that innocent child born with owing a lot of money, and the children, they are made to grow up very quick so that they can start paying back a debt that can never be paid, because the way the government is set up is to enslave people and keep creaming off the excess. In reality, in the world, there is more than enough money upon the planet for every individual to live comfortably and perhaps only work a couple days a week. That is the actuality of it. And it's just absolutely preposterous that you even have the masses not seeing this at this time. But I should not say that, because the majority are awakened. The only thing is they really do not know that they have a choice. And that's what I'm about, that's what many are about, and that's what you're about. Put it out on the streets, everyone you meet, and through social medias and what have you, say, yes, we have a choice. And in the blink of an eye, what I put on that post, just overnight, if you have the majority saying, standing up and saying no right around the globe, it collapses. It puts everything to a standstill in the blink of an eye. And if it takes a world strike to get rid of the bad guys, the governments that put this illusion over everyone, well, it's you don't do any harm to anyone. You just create the opposite and stand up, and they fade away. They are the victims of their own demise, if you will. And for what we are, we don't have to contend, with them. It doesn't matter if, let's say, in the blink of an eye, everyone had $5 million. Well, they would have it too, but what would it matter? So we're about creating the new, void of all the ridiculous war, poverty, hardship, and all of this that was created by ill intent, yeah, to keep control over humanity, to suppress them, to keep them in a state of savagery. But hey, guess what? We're in the times of super consciousness, and many are awakening. And let's just say people aren't dumb anymore. And in actuality, the tables have been flip, that any government that attempts to do things globally, any global leaders that attempts to try to enforce this upon anyone, you lost. And it's nonsensical. And having said that, within uh, governments and what have you, all of the employees that they have in there, there are some souls left in there that, as their consciousness expands, or if they look at what's really going on, they won't be part of these governments as well. And, I see around the world that, uh, let's say in law enforcement and military, and I know many of you know ones that have walked out of it. They took sick leave, whatever they had to do to get a little bit of money to survive on, but they walked away from it. While you have a lot more that have gathered documentation for these times to bring the whole thing down, and you bring it down by exposing it and revealing it to the masses, and it's incontestable evidence, it's irrefutable, undeniable, and we're at such an extreme with the revelations that even a child can look at it and see how ridiculous and preposterous this world was created, and how everyone was controlled to believe the ridiculous thing about money. However, I've been rambling. So, a child born into debt? No, I don't accept that. Not anymore. None of us, I don't believe. And the way they base their economic structure is, the day that each one is born, they began printing money off of you just because you exist. It's a ridiculous, primitive, not acceptable scheme. And, I wrote this down. Each human is equal, that no one is worth any more than another. And one thing that I look at, which is really ridiculous, you'll have a laborer making 10 or 15 bucks an hour, when you'll have a lawyer or a politician maybe making 1,000 bucks an hour. Uh, if you get right to the basics of it, it is also nonsensical. So, uh, having said that, I got some things wrote down, but I'd like to open up the floor here for some questions. Anyone is ready? Hey, good. Thanks, everyone. We still rolling here? Good. Hey, everyone. Good to see everyone here. I was thinking, yeah, Alicia, we're in the time of super consciousness. Yes, Alicia, what comes with this as well, and part of what I teach and I assist ones with, is with the super consciousness comes so many parapsychological gifts known as ESP, and on all levels that is to do with super consciousness and the intelligence and the consciousness of knowing how to work with energy, the basis of all creation. So you could have rocket scientists working in CERN, on a consciousness level that is even still below uh, some of us, and they will not find the truths, however they try. And but let's look at this in the blink of an eye also, and I have written down here as a point. If all of the old leaders and the governments collapsed, let's say overnight, what we have within our awakened communities are many professionals that can take this reality in any economic structure beyond what it is, and they're fully equipped to handle it. You don't need leaders that are in there against humanity and supporting the suppression and the hardship of all. It's absolutely ridiculous. You know, in Canada here, what you have is senior citizens, what we had called them now, that have worked all their life, living on, some of them living on less than poverty pensions from, you know, a government and an economy that they contributed to all their life. These, again, you know, these things are not acceptable, and they're not going into the future. So it's yeah, when I get down, you know, speaking about the 4D things and the economics, as you can see, it doesn't resonate. However, we need to go there sometimes, and I do, to, you know, let's look at it and to share some more information with those awakening, and let them know that there is something else. So, you got any questions here on anything? Catherine McConnell, she says, this is a quote from one of my posts: orienting a few timelines to reverberate the 5D back into the lower density temporarily. Now, what I mean by that is that, Catherine, we are creators, and we create the new. And what we do is, without revealing everything, we create at higher levels in heaven place timelines, futuristic timelines. Some of you, one of your indications that that is so is your deja vu moments. And this lets you know that time is not constant. And whereas time is not constant for us, when your physical body is resting and you think you're sleeping, you're not sleeping. You're actually in your divine essence, and many of you are divinely tasking and arranging new timelines and tributaries to the higher timelines, to the higher realities. So, what we actually do is we create the higher realities while in rest form. And you could say that we come down in the physical form when we're awake through the days and align things to these higher timelines. So, what we're doing is, and what I do is, uh, make connections back to the 5D timelines. And if you wish, you could look at this right now, is what I'm doing. I'm bringing down uh, a 5D state of being that someone that may be just awakening in the 4D will look at and say, yeah, you know, there's hope, and that we do have options to get out of this. And you know, as they began to follow along, they get connected with others like-minded, and they do start receiving the information that assists them and propels them forward. And it's all about purveying and sharing the information forward as well. And this is, you could also say, we create ourselves out of this lower density reality by such ways like that, without getting too deep in it. But thank you, Catherine, for giving me that opportunity to elaborate a little bit on that. So, hi, Lizine. I was just thinking about you a couple nights ago. You're having a lot of ear ringing. Yeah, you know, the ear ringing, okay, you say gets louder, you know, during meditation. Uh, yeah, because you're raising yourself up in a higher frequential state. So what is happening with the ascension? All of your senses are being attuned. You know, your smelling, your sight, your hearing, and much more. Also, your empathic abilities are being heightened. And But getting back to what you're saying about the ear ringing, everything operates on frequency and a frequency of consciousness as well. So one of your indicators, and many get this tinnitus, um, the ringing in the ears, many get this. And what it is, it's part of your raising of your frequency, and it's a gauge for you. And for some, they have, when they're on a threshold between one layer of consciousness and another, because all consciousness exists on certain frequencies as well. You may have prolonged periods of that, when you're ready for a breakthrough. Or also, it's not only looking for the word. It's not only attributed to the individual, on a larger scale also, because so much is being changed in the outside reality and the timelines, that if there's another creator close by that is affecting the timelines in a higher positivity, higher polarity state, also in proximity to others, it raises it up, and it may register that you will hear a higher pitch in your ears. And now, having said this, it's why it was so important, um, and for anyone, having gatherings, get together in the physical. It's very important, because you have energetic fields while you're in these humanoid bodies that, typically project outwards maybe up to 6 feet from your body. They emanate from, but they're charged with a polarity. And what occurs when you have amplified um, areas that are created by many gathering together in one place? You create and you create a higher reality, and you also affect the outside surroundings because of this, because everything exists upon energy. And having said that, positive energy is set up for the only energy, a polarity of positivity, to rise. Anyone with negative energy or fear-based energy at this time, it's divinely in the lower densities. It's divinely set up to attract like. So, for instance, if you are negative and depressed, you're going to attract that. But what's occurring as we go higher, so many learn very quickly to get out of negative states or fear states. They will, should they remain in it, when they are already on their way to ascending. So just to assure that again, and one thing I like to say, all religions to a degree has been manipulated. However, one thing that I like that does, the judgment days, and each one judges themselves by their actions, their reactions, and their state of being to what timelines you enjoy, and where you go. And for the Ascension community or the awakened community, it's basic knowledge to know that, like attracts. Be positive, everything's good. Be good at heart, and speak your truth, and speak from your heart, and you see relatively decide to do something that is not morally or even ethically correct. But when I use the words morally and ethically, I put a full definition. What I just like to say, just do what is good and right, to keep it simple. Thank you. We still on here, everyone? Scroll down. Hi, Leslie, Louise. Am I still on here? It's showing that it's been has been paused. Are we still rolling? Good to see you on here. Another powerful creator, Leslie Louise, and we met up at Point Zero in the Huntsville area gathering, and very impressive and a very good thing to share every aspect. I'd be writing books upon this, and for what we're doing, uh, the time to write books, I just don't have. Our main goal is to keep going forward with this ascension and keep raising everyone up as quick of it in our inner knowing. And so we wish to get this ground task done, if you will, so that at least if we need to stay here, it will be in a 5D harmonious state. But for many of us, we'll be moving on, and uh, we might just vanish, be picked up by a ship or what have you, or some will be staying behind on higher timelines. It's there's so many ways that it works, but one thing I will say, suicide's not allowed. No, you follow your divine prompts, and that is how we lead. Great. Okay. Have a look here. Okay, so I guess it's kind of glitchy. However, let's see what else I got wrote down here. Yeah, yeah. So we touched on, hanging the carrot in front of the nose, more or less what governments do, just constantly creating hardship and a bigger debt that is, actually an illusion. And it's actually against humanity, the governments were supposed to be to help people, but common sense shows you that's not the case. That's not their intent. They become part of a oligarch that they'll have fun and perhaps live their life or have an existence here that is pretty easy, while the rest at the expense of the others. And no, these things are not acceptable going forward. Nothing less than equality. Um, so yeah, we're seeing sovereignty groups and individuals coming together. More people are standing up, to take down the systems as they awaken. So it's happening very quickly and more every day. We're getting very close to the end of what we need to do here. Still, I don't have a time for you. The last I received is from Father, from Prime Creators, that I'd be here and most of us for a year or two, uh, assuring and assuring that everything goes smooth with the transition, and securing also the timelines and whatever else we must do. And also, having said that, as you know, we have the huge galactic presence here, which each and every one of you are part of it. And I hope you can hear this right now. Uh, this message. I may write it out later, but I also got the call for all of us to call in our ships closer, and also to uh, perhaps allow for some more sightings that will assist in speeding things up with the overall ascension. So how we doing? Okay, I still see hearts coming, so I guess we're still rolling. Uh, what I wish to say with the censoring and things, what occurs is that every time someone is censored, this is only more evidence to the masses of what is going on, especially, when you have ones that are censored that are speaking freedom for all humanity. It then becomes very blatant the true agenda behind social medias that do this. But not only that, there's been enough evidence put out that, let's say, 5 or 7 years ago, uh, what ones were labeled as conspiracy theorists, what you're actually seeing, that has all come to fruition, that it's been conspiracy facts. So, upon that, it has caused even more of a great awakening. And again, there is evidence and documentation to go back to also prove this, where certain news stations and media's, deliberately conceal truth from humanity again. So you're violating even bigger laws that they say are in place. And you cannot have an impunity for a law to be just. There cannot be any impunity. The moment that there is an impunity, it creates a bias, and any law or judiciary or justice system cannot be biased. It has to be based on fairness. So you void the whole system very quickly. So having said that, this is happening also. So pretty well. That's I had some notes wrote down there, and I covered all of them. So what about what are some of your thoughts on the sovereign is that not everyone uh, requires sovereignty decrees. If you may require them, because we have a wide array of different individual circumstances, and we're all about empowering the individual, to get themselves up there, and whatever tools they have of empowerment, it is always useful and keeps propelling everyone forward. So, having said that, there are ones that I know of now that have not had written decrees, have used verbal decrees, were accepted, but much more. And much more will come on this sovereignty theme, informing more of you and many others over the near course of time here to the decree that it, or the degree that it needs to be. So, presently, what would be great for all is a simplified version of the most effective decree to get it done for those that may need a written decree. You want something in your hand that it's not any guesswork, that it's backed by your absolute supreme authority, your divine authority. It's an energetic uh, energized document that it holds up against anything, and especially here at this time where divinity runs the show. Any darkness or any ill intent has to back down. However, there are some that still recently has gone into the experiences just to create more documentation for us going forward to present to others. No one actually gets hurt. This is not how it works. Uh, we are invincible. We do not die, and a whole lot more good stuff. But hey, you know, I'm only the messenger. You get your own confirmations. However, I know it's true. And for one reason, I would not be here today speaking to you if it was not true. For I was a target as well before I was awakened. Long story. Hey, Dana Hawkins. Woo! Love you, girl. You're awesome. And Kelly Lee. Hi, girl. My friend Hung. Hi, Hung. Woo! We had some dragon stuff going on. Hung shared with me the other night. I'll touch on that quickly. Uh, it's so important with the universal dragon belief as well. And that belief is undergoing transformation to the 5D. And although Hung may not agree, what I see within her is that she plays a very important part uh, with that transitioning to get it purified, the lesser states. And, that's how I see it. And Hung is very powerful, very high consciousness, and I just love her energy and love her being. She is amazing. So, and Todd G. McQueen, we missed you, buddy, when we were in Alberta. Thanks for joining. Good. So, any more questions? Or are we glitching again? Anyhow, what I'll do is I'm going to review this and just see how good it is, and perhaps maybe if I need to go over this, I may go over on one in the near future on another live. I was trying this out, but I may try another platform to broadcast from, which it may be better. So I'm not glitching, but I chose this to have a live so that we could have some participation in here, and perhaps just talk a little bit about the new. Okay, great. Talk a little bit, about sovereignty and the new things that are coming. I heard about appears that Kevin Annett, if any of you know him, he's an advocate for sovereignty, and it seems that President Trudeau, or Prime Minister Trudeau, sorry, that he's kind of avoiding some news people. And one of the reasons for that is because there's charges laid against him by the people. And, there's important evidence there that he's kind of ignoring or trying to navigate away from. But again, it's comical to watch when these prominent figures are fully exposed for what they are. And, if you look at Trudeau, any of you following a little bit of the mundane politics, the St. Lavalin scandal, and, Trudeau's cabinet, all part of that. But, the whole thing, it doesn't matter if they're liberal, conservative, NDP, they all go to bed together, they all go to lunch together. They just play a game that they're actors there just for the public. But any of you in the past, that watched Parliament House, or what actually goes on in Parliament. You just see it's like any of you that watched the Muppets, the couple judges that used to be on the Muppets is similar to that, just cracking jokes all day, while you have the most of the population are suffering hardships and trying to survive, and they're in Parliament all dressed up, drinking wine, some of them asleep and cracking jokes. I mean, that was so blatant as well. Okay, everyone. So I'm not going to ramble on. Any questions, please put them up. The title of this question and answer on the reasons for sovereignty and more. So any questions, if you wish, throw them up there. Contacted Morgan Lee with Todd Medina that if they're up to it, I may do a show with them in the future. But Whatchy. Stacy Lynn Lewis, can you explain what a walk-in? For the most part, with what I teach, I'd rather look at a walk-in as really an aspect of oneself, just a higher degree of it. And what you will find, it's not like uh, a schizophrenic. They do is they bring in their higher self. It's their connection to all time at a soul level. Very, very, very rarely is there ever a walk-in. And what I would wish to say is that's only uh, and it's actually a walk-in is actually a version or an aspect of the soul that is already in there, and they can jump to a higher level to deliver a higher message. It might appear like someone else is in there. However, they are just aspecting a higher part of themselves, and when it's divinely allowed, it goes like that. Um, so that's where I'm at with that, and that may go against the status quo, Stacy, but those are my explanations for a walk-in. And also with my own incarnation here, I've actually been here before I was physically born in this body. However, I was not awakened until around 2010 to who and what I actually was. I spent my experience here as a human with the veil completely down. However, my soul has always been intact within this physical vessel that I have. And, during my awakening, as even if some of my friends are watching, that I changed from what I was. That level of consciousness at that time that may look like it was someone else come in, but actually it's not. It's the higher aspects of ourselves. Thank you, Stacy. Hi, Megan. Have a beautiful weekend as well. Oh, thank you, Leslie Louise. She says that that's her understanding of a walk-in as well. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. There's many beliefs out there, and what I tend to do is say that all beliefs are correct because correct for the individual at that time. However, what I also say is don't draw conclusions on beliefs and don't restrict yourself to that. Always be open to allow beliefs to change, and you never do anything wrong by perhaps believing something that was true at a time and then finding out it wasn't. This is all part of the process uh, of learning and also elevating. As you go higher, truths don't always hold true for the timelines. Like one of the most blatant truths before you were awakened. Some of you before you were awakened, you thought that you had to keep up with the Joneses, and you had to work your life to have something. However, upon awakening, you come to see that it was all a lie. So, that's a perfect example of how truth change with that. And I like to use that analogy or that example sometimes. Yeah, Stacy, she says, I had a walk-in last year. That makes sense. Thank you. Yeah, Stacy, for what I'm getting from you, that's a higher aspect of you that come in here at this time. Because you must remember, we're advancing upward, and there are levels of consciousness with this. And, you could wake up someday and find out that you have telekinesis, that you can move objects with your mind. Everything is possible with this, and it's a new you, and each one's choice of putting on a new you every day is there, and keep the vibration higher and as high as you can, and navigate through the lower density things and empower yourself. That's where the power is at. But always with good vibrations. Don't get into even sad vibrations. Let's say it's okay to grieve or mourn, but do not be entrapped into any of that, and know the higher aspects of what actually occurs. And so you don't want to succumb to some lower density timelines by creating a lower polarity field that keeps you stuck in areas of misery or sadness. So, it's easier said than done. However, you can do it much quicker now because there are so many advanced, and the overall vibration of the planet is amplified and raised, that very quickly one that may succumb a little bit to lower density acts and reactions can rebound very quickly. Your resilience now is very powerful upon knowing that. you know One thing is, if you're in a negative, very negative environment, just separate yourself from it. For example, if you have stopped alcohol, and you went with a friend to a bar and it's not resonating with you, and you're feeling drained, well, just separate and get out of there. Don't stay there and succumb your energy to something that is uh, lowering your polarity, as an example. And it's very important to know that you can say no. It's not, you're not being selfish. You're actually keeping yourself empowered when you are your own authority and don't give your consent away to anything that doesn't resonate. So, any more questions? Woo! We're 43 minutes in here, almost 44. But anyone got any questions, like on the sovereignty, uh, theme I've been bringing up? Any comments or any questions on that? Thank you. Now, it looks like everyone's pretty well quiet. That gives me some time to perhaps work on other things I have to do here. So that's great. So I love you all and thank you, and will keep you up to date the best that I can on what's going on. We were just so busy the last couple months, and with the gatherings across Montreal. Uh, uh, Thanks to Benoit, we had met many, and it was almost on a daily basis there that I exerted quite a bit of energy, and a couple times I had to receive a huge influx of light to continue going. So it was great, and to see that it meant I was putting a lot out, which I loved, and I knew it was being received as well. So everything is always ascertained that it's a success, and it always is. Yeah, we have different types, with that declaration of sovereignty and the sovereignty decrees, and it's what resonates, as I said, with each. Some of you don't need it, your stuff. Others it may be useful for, and the idea of putting it out is to assist again as many as possible with this, because in the past too, um, let's say many were targets by the system, and it was very blatant what occurred. So every bit of protection, even if it's an energetic written form, hey, everything assists, and that's what I'm about, and that's what we're all about, assisting to the fullest everyone. So thank you, Julia, and you're welcome as well. So great. Everyone, divine comrades, I'm going to let you go with this, and I love you all, and we're doing it. We're making immense headway, and let's see what we got on the on the table for the next few days. The RV that is coming to fruition. It's imminent. I don't have an exact date on that. However, again, I'm told it is imminent and it does occur. But there's also higher energetic things as well that will be occurring perhaps simultaneously. So it's at any day that I anticipate I could wake up in the morning and everything's changed in our reality where we're at, because actually we're that close. Well, I was going to go, and Georgina Aurora says, may you explain more, please? Georgina, could you just please like get right to the point to explain more about what, if you could elaborate? That would be great, because it's kind of vague. It says, may you explain more, please? So I've talked about several different topics here. But again, in general, the sovereignty is where people are taking back their own power and joining together equally, and not being ruled by a 1% and kept in enslavement and in hardship, in poverty, in sickness, and all of this, to essentially show what's occurring. And also, at this most amazing time globally, there are sovereign groups that are established, and even more springing up all over the globe, to assure that humanity as the people rules the future timelines here, and not an elitist 1%, and these sort of old scenarios, they are primitive, and they have kept, let's say, humanity uncivilized for over a century, and has placed humanity behind where they should have been in the universal flow of all things. So there are many excited ones uh, that are not on Gaia that are ready to make contact and much more to, have the fun things occur. So that is assured that it is and it will be in the near futures, even if not overnight. Yeah, yeah. So Georgina, so that's what I mentioned, the sovereignty. So I feel in general that I just answered that, but let me also say that in the upcoming days or weeks, I will be um, putting out more information. But what I'd like to see is something very simplified. So if I don't make a simplified version right to the point that, let's say, the common layman can read very easily, that if I don't make it, I will find something here to deliver, because what we need is a refined vehicle that's easily understood by the one that's using it, and also easily understood by any recipient that may require it. So the more simple things are, as we know, the better. So great. Okay, I got to go this time. So I love you all, and lots of peace and winks, and thank you so much for your support. And we're moving um, in the near future, I believe, to a website away from some of these lower social platforms that no longer serve. Let's say that the light tech is much higher than these sort of platforms, and that uh, they may not be required in the future, or not required at least the way that they are now. So, uh, again, I'm the messenger, but time is my witness always. So, love you and peace. And we did it. We just got to get this movie over with. So, good night now, and thank you. Love you. Bye.